Serious, what is your scariest true story? When I was young, my parents and I went to see the fireworks show at the Vinoy Spelling Hotel in Florida. We were speaking to this really nice woman next to us. She was a foster mom for kids, adopted a lot of animals, super into charity. I was dancing with her, and my mom called me over, saying the fireworks will start soon. And less than a second later the shot went off to start them. The woman grabbed her chest and said, "Ouch. Something bit me." And when she pulled her hand away there was a perfect hole in her chest. She stood there a moment in shock before it started bleeding, and then she fell to the ground. Everyone started panicking. I was separated from my parents and hid in the elevator. I kept going to random floors with people until I saw someone that my parents knew and stuck with them. The police came to our hotel room that night to get witness statements. We were on top of the hotel, and I never really looked into it after I still can't do fireworks, but my dad told me it was a freak accident involving the gun they used to signal the fireworks. It was just the sight of her casually pulling her hand away, thinking it was a bee sting, and seeing this perfect hole. Then just blood. It was so surreal. My husband was shot in the face as a child in a similar situation. He was at a 4th of July event and I guess someone somewhere shot a gun and the bullet came down through his nose and out of his mouth. He obviously survived, and you really wouldn't know anything like that happened to him. He has a teeny scar on his nose. The city ended up giving him a bunch of stuff, including Batman figurines and a limo ride to a Boyz II Men concert, probably in an effort to avoid being sued. When I was 4, I was at a mall with my mom. The department store we were in had a children's corner with toys and a TV, so parents could leave their kids there while they shopped. On this day, they were showing a behind-the-scenes special of the highly anticipated The Lion King, which was going to be in theaters soon. Thinking I would see the actual film, I sat down to watch while my mom did her shopping. When it became clear they weren't going to show the movie, and I was watching a glorified commercial, I lost interest and wandered away to look for my mom. But the store was huge, and I didn't know where she would be. So I started calling out for her. Suddenly a lady approached me and asked if I was lost. I knew I wasn't supposed to talk to strangers, but she seemed genuine, so I told her yes. Then she offered to help and took my hand. I thought she was going to help me find my mom or at least take me to the front desk, but we headed back in the direction I just came from. Soon, we were nearing the door that led directly into the parking lot. I remember thinking this isn't right as it was clear she was taking me outside, but she still had me by the hand. Moments after she led me outside, I heard a scream and my mom sprinted toward us. She had already been outside looking for me and had seen me exit with this woman. My mom flew into a rage. "What the fuck are you doing with my child? Where were you taking her?" I remember the lady panicked and didn't have a clear explanation, but I don't remember the exact details from that point. The next clear memory I have was driving home with my mom while she wept and told me to never trust strangers, not even if they are nice, not even if they have candy or presents, not even if they need help, not even if they say they will help me. It really stuck with me. I was in the shower with my girlfriend and we were messing around, getting water in our mouths and shooting it at each other, etc. She had some water in her mouth and was laughing and must have accidentally swallowed some, and it went down the wrong way. She looks at me with this terrified face and says she can't breathe. I thought she was joking at first but soon realized she was serious. I started trying to give her the Heimlich but it didn't work. Then I started banging her back on an upwards angle, but that didn't work either. I was so close to grabbing my phone and calling 911 when she suddenly coughed the water up and managed to breathe. Easily the scariest moment of both of our lives, and we never duck around with water in our mouths in the shower anymore. This happened while living at my parents' house about 10 years ago. My whole family, brother, sister, and parents were at a Major League Baseball game. It was a night game, and being baseball it ran a little later into the night. I was working as a lifeguard in high school, and would get off around 9 PM usually. The pool was super close to my parents, so I could get home within minutes. Well, I finally get home and get a shower, and I'm trying to be quick about everything. BC, there was a party that night that someone from work was throwing. I'm getting out of the shower and walk into my room and hear all this shuffling and running downstairs. So I yell hello, thinking it's my parents. I then yell, Mom, Dad. Again to no avail and hear the running of footsteps downstairs, and next thing I know I hear our garage opening up. You could just manually lift the door at the time. BC, our garage door opener was broken anyways. That kinda freaked me the hell out. BC, literally no one was home except for me. I ran across the street and got my neighbor and her son, and I walked through my house with a samurai sword. BC, I was afraid whatever was in there was still there. The neighbor ended up calling the police. When we did another walkthrough, we found that my dad had about $2-300 cash stolen. My mom's diamond rings and earrings were all stolen, and there was a set of earrings lying on the bedroom floor with the jewelry box lid askew. What happened was my parents' house was in the process of getting robbed. While I came home, I was in the house with the intruders for some time before they realized I was home, and heard the shower running and me starting to yell for my parents, which startled them and made them make a run for it, hence the footsteps and shuffling I was hearing. And the escape route was through the broken garage door, which they must have scouted out about our house for some time. The cop said that was the third break-in on our area within the past week, and they have been on the lookout for suspicious people without tipping off the public. Real shit. Probably one of the scariest things I've had happen to me though. The moment I realized my parents weren't home and someone else was in the house with me was a terrible gut-wrenching feeling. When I was a little kid, I had a reoccurring nightmare almost weekly. I would be in the basement and would hear a meow. I would search for the source in the dark and find it a sunken window at eye level with a little bit of filtered light. Lying in it would be a dead grey cat with empty eye sockets fixed on me, giving a mournful shriek. Sometimes a red light would open in the eye, and everyone I loved would die. I would wake up at various stages of this nightmare. It got so bad one summer that I slept with the lights on all night. Every time I heard a cat, I was afraid it was the eyeless grey one from the nightmare. Fast forward 25 years later, and I'm buying my first home with my wife. It doesn't have central air, so we sleep downstairs in the basement for the summer. We have one of those sunken windows. One night the first week there, we wake up to the sound of a cat meowing and furiously trying to get into the bedroom through the sunken window. In the filtered light I see a grey cat, and I see an empty eye socket staring back at me. We've slept upstairs since. But, in a twist, the cat is lovely. His name is Lau, and he runs beside me when I go for a jog. He also plays with our new Australian Shepherd puppy. Most social cat I've ever seen. At a friend's house testing out the new stroller, me being dumb and unaware of my surroundings, I walked behind our car that my husband and his friend were working on in the driveway, and we walked on the sidewalk behind it. It was on a couple jacks to let them get to the brakes to replace them. My friend, who also has kids, wanted to push her, since strollers have vastly improved in just the last 10 years. As she walked behind the car, the lift suddenly failed, and the car dropped down and rolled back, pinning the stroller between two cars with my infant still in it. I didn't know I could hold back a Saturn V while simultaneously ripping my kid out of a stroller. Graco products are the sheet, FYI. Saw a guy get his throat cut. I was quite young and there were a bunch of middle school kids fighting, then one pulled out a knife and slit the other's throat. Blood was gushing out, and that scene was kinda branded in my mind. I'm 52. When I was about 8 years old, 5 other 8 to 10-year-olds were in a kid's bedroom playing. This one boy and me were wrestling around when someone turned off the lights. When the light went off there was a loud pop. Another kid had found a pistol and fired it. I was laying on the bedroom floor. The bullet missed my head by 2 inches. It was a straight down shot that narrowly missed. Used to live in a house in a quiet neighborhood. I'd often stay up late in the living room, which had a fairly large glass door to the backyard that you could slide open with no curtain. Sometimes I'd hear noises in the backyard, but it'd usually be my cats. Sometimes the motion sensing porch light would turn on, but again I figured it was some nighttime critter. One day after a night of snow I noticed a fresh set of shoe prints that stopped dead right in front of that glass door. Someone had obviously been there at some point in the night. Another time I noticed the glass door's lock was slightly tampered with. I'm actually freaking myself out writing all of this, because at the time I figured it was just a one-time thing. but in reality this person could have been making repeat visits anytime he wanted before and after that snow day. Me and my husband then boyfriend lived in a cheap apartment monthly lease until we could find a better place. One night we were watching Ghost Hunters or something similar in the living room, also had a sliding glass door. I was still awake, but he was drifting off to sleep. I keep seeing shadows slightly move. I'm thinking it's the wind moving the tree outside. I get the hair on the back of my neck stand up feeling / chills down my spine / I'm going to die. I look out the ducking door and see a shape of man. We make eye contact and he slowly moves out of eye shot. I wake my BF and feel him, and he says my mind is just ducking with me since we are watching Scary Sheet. No sooner has he said this, and the guy walks back to the door and stares at us. My BF sees this and says to call 911. He grabs a knife and chases after the guy. This happens one more time when I'm home alone with our daughter. I called the police again, and the police officer says that the area's all clear, but that the perp is most likely casing the place with ill intent. We moved rather quickly. When I was about 8 months pregnant with my second child, we had a small fire at our house. We filed an insurance claim and got money to replace carpets, curtains, paint, etc. We, myself, then husband, 3-year-old, went to the local big box hardware store to pick out paint colors and carpet. The paint aisle was busy, so we went to carpet first. While we were looking at samples, we heard the loudest boom, what sounded like the aisles literally falling over. It was deafening. We ran towards the back of the store and could see and smell smoke. The fire alarm was blaring, and the employees were ushering us out the back. About the time we were getting close to the exit, a lady ran past us literally on fire. My husband chased after her, yelling for us to get out. We exited the building into a receiving area that was padlocked shut. The minutes it took someone with a key to unlock that gate so we could go around to the front and me find my husband seemed like forever. The lady was hospitalized for a long time and had many surgeries. She had been in the paint aisle. Someone had planted a pipe bomb there. USA, NC. Many years ago, when I was in high school, I was staying up late playing video games. Parents were out, but no big deal. Being home alone didn't scare me. So I'm playing the game, and at around 3 AM, my parents finally arrive. This in itself wasn't unusual, but based off their demeanor, something had happened. My dad told me that on their way back from their friend's house a far drive away, he had noticed they were being followed. My mom had no idea, but my dad, being the driver, was aware of this car that had followed them from about halfway back. Our house was in the suburbs, and thus, getting to our house involved a few turns and whatnot. My dad purposely drove past our house without stopping, which is when my mom asked what he was doing. Sure enough, the car continuously followed my parents through the neighborhood. My dad ended up driving to the police station, which is when the car turned away and stopped following them. It's scary to think what could have been had my dad not had the presence of mind to be aware of his surroundings as a driver and to act on his intuition. My parents would have opened the garage door to put the car in, and the idea that a car whose occupants likely had a malicious intent was right behind them is a thought that still bothers me to this day. Because of that past incident, I learned to always mind my surroundings when driving. Edit. I'm quite surprised at the number of replies and similar stories people have shared. I'm also amused that some think it was a mere harmless prank. While that certainly had been a possibility, here's some relevant information I should have included initially. My parents were coming back from their friend's house in Oxnard, California, roughly 80 miles north of where we lived at that time. My dad said that he believes the car had followed them beginning around Thousand Oaks, California, as he remembered a distinctive mismatch on the headlights, something about one being dimmer and of different luminosity than the other. Thousand Oaks was about 60 miles from where we used to live. A harmless prank that involves following a random car for 60 miles? If that were the case, I'd feel more pity on the teenagers who had nothing better to do past midnight. In any case, let's all stay safe and vigilant out there.